In accordance to the open requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being broadcast at a later date over the Lunenburg Public Access channel. You can also attend the meeting by Zoom, which if you're here, you have the Zoom code. If not, it's on the agenda in the Lunenburg website. The meeting will be broadcast on a later date through the local Access cable channel and on Public Access Facebook, and will be found on the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel within 24 hours of the meeting. The agenda lists all of the topics which may be discussed at the meeting and those that are reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by the open meeting law. So the first thing that's on the agenda after the call to order is public comment. Is there anybody that would like to make a public comment? Seeing no one's hand raised after a couple of checks. We're going to the new business, and the new business is action item on the FY26 capital plan. Dr. Burnham, do you want me to turn it over to you?
Certainly.
Okay.
All right. So at our regularly scheduled school committee meeting last Wednesday evening, we had indicated that we were awarded a Green Communities grant. The award for us was in the amount of $200, plus there are additional energy rebate savings that could be applied to the cost of the project being phase 2 of the mini split installation at the primary school. And I'll let Dr. Gilson speak to this in a moment as well. What we were not aware of as we were working with the committee to submit the proposal last fall was that the project was going to have to move forward in order not to hold up the next round of grants that can go in this coming fall. There are other projects that the town is looking to have the Green Communities grant funding for. As an example, hybrid cruisers, as an example, would be eligible for these grant projects. Therefore, in a meeting on Friday afternoon with the town manager and the chairs of the Finance Committee, Select Board, and School Committee, we talked about the different ways that we might secure the remaining funds necessary to complete the project this summer, and determined that the best resolution was actually to seek to amend the capital plan request for FY26. And the nature of the urgency in having this meeting today was so that the school committee could discuss and make a decision, take a vote as to whatever action they wanted to take relative to this possible solution, so that we could inform the town manager in advance of the select board meeting tomorrow evening, where she would have to present the amended capital plan to them. So the proposal essentially is that the school committee would request to remove those school department capital projects FY26 that made it through the capital planning process and are included in the current version of the town manager's capital plan, which she would bring forward to the annual town meeting in May, and replace those items with this one ask: the funding for the remainder of phase 2 of the mini split installation at the primary school. If we go this way and this funding is secure, we can move forward, get this project completed this summer, get it all signed off, and then the Green Committee is clear to pursue another round of grant submissions this fall. Dr. Gilson, anything to add? I think the total value of the project that was submitted as phase two is in the realm of $485,000. Is that right?
That's pretty close. I mean, it's 483,000, give or take, right? You know, and so yes, that's correct.
So the remaining balance that we would need to secure funding for is 170,000. And Mr. Beardmore can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the projects that were to be incorporated in this year's capital plan at town meeting for the school department included the design study for the playground at the primary, the design study for the driveway revision at the primary, the safety window film at the primary, the hot water tank replacement at Turkey Hill, and I think the security camera central server replacement. Is that the list that you have, Mr. Beardmore?
Indeed, that is correct.
So essentially, we would request to remove those for consideration and inclusion in the capital plan that the town manager brings forward to town meeting and replace it with this ask of the 170 to complete the mini split phase two at the primary school. And we would just bring these other projects back in the capital plan, the 10-year capital plan. We would just put these items that we are potentially removing this evening, bring those back in FY27 in the 10-year school department capital plan.
Mr. Chairman, can I just clarify one piece?
Sure.
Thank you. This is Jen Warren Diamond, the town manager. The total funding between those projects were absolutely correct. The total funding between the projects is $146,865. So there still is a small delta there to get you to the 170. That would not be included in the revision to the FY26 capital plan that I shared.
So could somebody walk us through the math here? Because I have a number of questions, but I heard a $483,000 number. I heard $200,000 in grants and $146,000 from the capital plan.
And there's a utility incentive that they also add in, and the utility incentive is 113,250. So that's the missing part, Peter, that I guess you need to be aware of.
Okay,
So
so
there's grant 200K, add 113,250 into that. And the remaining amount is Lunenburg's expected contribution of 170K. And then what Jen is saying is that there is 100 and Jen, can you say that again, please?
Sure, it's $146,865 in the capital plan. And if committee members want to look at that sheet, I was sent it out on Friday afternoon.
yeah, we've got it.
Okay, excellent.
So by my math, just you're looking at round numbers, we're still $23,000 short. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And does anybody know where the 23,000 is going to come from?
I mean, I'm assuming that, and Ms. Town Manager and Dr. Byrne, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm assuming that this would be something that we could use free cash to do?
From the 500,000,
Yes, ma'am.
yes.
Okay, can we go back and rerun the history here? Because I think I have a pretty good understanding of the trade-offs here. And by the way, all things being equal, with the exception of the hot water tank that I think brings some risk to it, I think that there's a better short-term gain from doing this project than some of the projects that we have on the FY26 capital plan. So I'm okay with the trade-off, so to speak. Obviously, this represents, though, a major disruption to our process that we have been criticized for, and rightfully so in some cases, for not following the process. And I recall 2 meetings last fall, a capital planning committee meeting and a school committee meeting, where Mr. Blatt came forward and said, we need to get out of the starting blocks here and get moving on applying for these grants. My understanding until last Wednesday was that this wasn't you have to cough up the money to get the grant. So when did that come into the picture, and were there some people that knew and some people that didn't, or what? Because I feel like I know it wasn't a bait and switch, but I feel like the victim of a bait and switch here, given what's transpired over the course of the last several months.
So
okay. I'll
can
let the
a little
chair.
bit.
Yep.
So I'm on the same page as you from last meeting, and then I got an email from Dave Blatt after our meeting, and I replied to try to get some more feedback, and that's when I found out that this sounds like we're going to hold up the green communities from getting more grants next year. So I talked to the superintendent, and I mentioned that we should talk to the town manager about this, and then we talked to the town manager on Friday. And
well, the issue with so there was a number of issues here, right? One issue is the fact that this is going to hold, if we don't do the project, and we continue to hold the project as if we're going to do it, we're going to hold up the Green Communities Committee, right? I get that. But there's the other aspect of this, which is, and we've talked about this 100 times, every time a grant comes up, if we apply for this grant, are we going to have to contribute more money to make the grant a thing?
Mhm.
And in my opinion, I never knew about the more money, literally until last week. So my question is, where's the disconnect?
I think obviously, well, I think that you could tell from my comments at the meeting last week that we were unaware of this as well, but thought it's okay because based on the timeline to expend the grant and knowing that we had already scheduled the mini split project, the phase 2 project in FY27 in our capital plan, that it still would cycle through and we would be able to secure the additional funding, assuming that the capital plan committee, particularly now that we had grant funding, would deem that project rate it high enough that it would be funded in FY27. We still felt that we would be able to actually get the project completed within the timeline of the grant. And that's when, we found out in talking with the town manager that that was problematic because they had plans for submission in the fall for additional funding for projects on the town side. As well, in our conversations with Mr. Blatt and the team last year, there were plans to do some assessment at Turkey Hill as part of another grant round so that we could get to yet another grant cycle in the out years where we could do the heat pumps, mini splits, over at the Turkey Hill Elementary. So in our conversations with the Green Committee, we were under the impression that we were the projects that were in the queue for them for the next couple of cycles, not realizing that it sounds like kind of like a given that they would submit for hybrid vehicles for the safety department each year as well. So I think that we were just as surprised. I know that Dr. Gilson was involved in more of the meetings and more of the conversations than was I. So I'll let her speak to if she had any insight into this. I can tell you that I did not. Dr. Gilson?
Yeah, and I can tell you too that I did not either. And I think even the date, we were also, like, we knew that we submitted for the grant with the help of Green Communities in the fall, but it was not even clear as to when the grant was going to come through. The timing was either, we were, I think, informed either late winter, spring. We didn't really know when it was going to come through. So, and if it was going to come through, like we just didn't know.
So I just, having been around for a little while and been involved in discussions at finance committee meetings and capital planning committee meetings and school committee meetings about green communities grant applications. The applications, generally speaking, some years there's off-round applications, but they happen in the fall, they're granted in the spring, and you got to expend them to do the new thing. And I actually had this thought during our meeting last week, but I didn't want to speak out of turn just because I didn't really know for sure. And my only comment is before we drive forward on whether we're going to do this or not, we've got to be applying for grants, but we've got to be a little bit more sophisticated in our planning and communication. I personally feel some responsibility here because as chairman of the capital planning committee, I feel like I've wasted a lot of capital planning time, just because we've gone through a legitimate process here and tried to offer good advice to the town manager. And frankly speaking, it's all, with respect to the school department stuff, it's all null and void, right? We're doing a take back, and we'll see again next year. And I feel like we're not making good use of people's time by doing it this way. And I know that this wasn't planned, but this is the net effect of not being fully communicative and transparent about what we're getting ourselves into here.
Right. And I think too that everything last fall was really condensed. It was very rushed by the time we were involved, and it was, yes, this is a viable project. And then we had to get all kinds of data and work with different members of the team to pull together the data to get the application through. It was sort of like a sprint to get this pulled together. So admittedly, there wasn't a whole lot of time for deeper inquiry as to, well, how does this play out if we do get it? And how does this work beyond the award, so on and so forth. Perhaps if it hadn't been so condensed, there might have been more that emerged through conversation in the process that would have brought some of this to light earlier.
It also brings to light, like, maybe if we're in this business of applying for large grants and doing large projects, the town needs to rethink the capital planning process. Full stop. Because this is just not, this doesn't work the way we're doing.
Same thing for like the police or the fire. If they're getting one of these green grants, it's like it throws off the entire capital plan because we don't hear about it till later.
Yeah, the thing with like an electric or a hybrid police cruiser is it's $5,000, right? Like, and it's kind of built, the full cost is built in, and then if we we get the $5,000, it's $5,000. Here, it's like, there's a major trade-off here.
Can I ask a question to Dr. Gilson?
Yes.
At the time that we were applying for this grant,
Mhm.
could we have figured out that we would have had to spend the money in the manner in which we are now talking about spending? Or was it something that we only learned later on when we accepted the grant and it blocked the town's grants from activating?
We did not know in what kind of grant we were going to be awarded at all. So we did not know, that it was going to be anywhere near 200K. And so I think there we were glad to be awarded 200K, but the next steps then were, okay, can we pare down? One of the things that we did talk about was, can we pare this project down to make it more affordable given the state of our budget? And what was discussed, we had a meeting to discuss that piece of it. And so I think that paring it down, basically paring anything down out of the scope that was originally presented, they have to go back and they have to re-review the project, and we have no guarantees of being funded. So again, I think that was the concern, because we really wanted to see what we could do to still meet the grant requirements and pare things down, and then perhaps go for another round of funding. But we also did not know what the intention was with the Green Communities of wanting to continue to apply for other funding for the town. So that was, so that's where I think that we stood in our understanding of the project.
Ms. Brzezowski?
Can we wait a year, even if it does sum up the works for the rest of the town? Because I'm having a very hard time pushing some of these projects off. Primary school feasibility study for the driveway, that's a safety issue that we've been having for several years. Primary school designer services for playground equipment, that's a safety issue for the primary school students. And that's the first step in a long process for a safer playground. I'm having a hard time pushing some of these out even a year, especially now that we're looking at busing fees and we're going to have more parents driving their kids in with the driveway. That driveway's been an issue for a while. So pushing these off, I'm having a hard time with, especially considering what a small percentage of the capital projects schools are. And then looking at the capital projects, I mean, town hall HVAC upgrades is $113,000 for a building that we're voting to maybe renovate. I'm wondering why the schools are bearing the entire cost of this. If we're gonna have to bear the entire cost of it, but we're doing it to benefit other departments in town, why don't we just do what benefits us?
So there's a lot that what you just said there, but I can try to comment from my perspective, and I think from the perspective of the Capital Planning Committee. These items were very well considered.
Oh yeah, I know you
There are
guys put a lot of
very,
time into it,
very good reasons why
which is
there
why I
are
don't want to
town
not
hall-
do them.
why there are town hall projects on this list. And they were heavily and debated extensively by the Capital Planning Committee. With respect to the primary school projects, particularly the planning and the driveway and the playground, I got to tell you, Laura, I would be in a very similar position if you had not started a discussion about consolidating schools and closing Turkey Hill and expanding the use of the primary school, because that's going to change our parking requirements if we do that, as well as our traffic, if we were ever to go down that path. So, you know, like, given the conversations we've had over the course of the last several weeks, I'm not nearly as confident in those two items as I was even 2 months ago.
That is a good point. Yeah, because we are going to have to make even tougher choices. It's just being forced to spend $170,000 to put at a time when we're down to bare necessities and we are being forced to make such dire cuts. Suddenly having to spend money on this is putting us in a very difficult situation. And if it could be put off, I would rather put it off.
I think the challenge with putting it off is we're losing all that grant funding. So we're actually going to get a project, a big project done that we may not get done in the future. It's that it goes back to they didn't put AC in the primary school, but now we actually have the opportunity that we can get it done where we might not in the future.
Does anybody know the standalone cost without the additional requirements to turn this thing into the central controller that this grant requires, what that difference in actual cost is to us? Like, let's say you were to pull out the $200,000. Does the Unitil money go with that $200,000, and are we just left to pay for condensers and splits on our own?
Well,
Or-
maybe we have the answer in the price tag because for the first phase of the units, because if I'm understanding correctly, that was maybe $230,000. And so am I right? Or
Yeah,
you know,
that was pretty close. Yep.
and that included no controllers and no grant requirements. And so the benefit of meeting the grant requirements is that there is a utility incentive of $113,250. And there is also you know, the new price tag would put it at around $170,000. So
let me just see if I can
yeah,
get to the heart of the issue here.
yeah.
We're $170,000 out of pocket.
Mhm.
We get a fully integrated system
Yeah,
this year versus $230,000 plus in an out year that we can't guarantee we're going to get because we don't know.
right.
That is not an integrated system that has just individual thermostats on the wall for each
Right.
condensing unit.
That's
For each
right.
split.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the energy savings that we will be able to get every year moving forward, once the system is in. And talking to our main HVAC system.
So for my money, so a couple of, just a couple of thoughts. Again, this is just me. Number one, it seems like we're going to get a lot more bang for our buck. And we get to finish a project. Which, believe it or not, after 3 years on the school committee, I really want to finish a project.
But in exchange, we're giving up every single other thing that we had on the capital plan.
Well, I mean, theoretically, what we would be doing is, because that is in FY27 on the capital plan for 230 some odd dollars, we're literally flipping, right? We're flipping the 26 plan with the 27 plan. Not to say that this will all be in the same, go through the same analytics of the same people and the same prioritization in a year from now, but none of these are falling off the list, right?
Correct.
I think the fact that they made the list, they're likely to make the list next year.
Well, there are some particulars about this year, like there are no capital, there are no public works projects that there's a lot of smaller scale projects that we were able to fund this year that we've never had 22 items on our capital plan in my time doing this. So
How many are
this is a
normally?
unique year.
How many are there normally? Normally it's less.
Yeah, less than 10.
Yeah, it was
10-ish.
really, list just kept going. I was watching the meeting and it just kept going.
But then I also look at it as this AC project was likely going to be on the capital planning project in the future too. So you're really
It
just,
was next
swap.
year. Yeah.
Yeah. so I think you're just swapping the years. And again, we're getting more projects done. We'll have more
But it's
funding
also
projects.
coming out of the free cash, and that's also money that we don't have available. That's money that we don't have available to spend on nice to haves. I mean, I know we need to. These are just really hard decisions.
Totally agree.
Mr. Scombrini?
Back a little bit. This is not a hard decision. We are getting free money and we have to spend a little money to get money. But when we are talking about an austerity budget where we have to do things like, cut teachers and consider class sizes, I understand that it's a change in plans. But from what Dr. Gilson said, it was not something that we could have anticipated until after the grant was awarded. Now, that means that what we were told at school committee last week was inaccurate. And that's kind of a bummer. But I don't feel like it's a waste. And I don't feel like it's a hard decision because we got free money. I just, we're swapping orders of priority on things that even among the 5 of us, we didn't have agreement on. And had, 1 vote or 2 votes been different, we would have been funding this thing in the next year instead of the year after. So the flip-flop here really isn't that big of a deal. And I think that the last thing I want to say is Peter's point is right. Like, we are getting more and we are finishing a project. One of the things that this town has got to start to do is understand that maintenance delayed is not just a little more money, it's exponentially more money. If you look at the cost for installing air condition when the primary school was built, which was the first project I worked on when I was a new school committee member, I don't remember the exact quote, but my understanding was it was like somewhere between $2 and $3 million. It would have been the whole school. And we waited, 30 years, and 25 years. And the end result is we're doing part of the school where each part is like 4 times the cost of the whole thing. And so finishing a project in a timely fashion that will keep a building operational and easy to use is something that the whole town needs to do. And I understand that we're being forced to take some of the free cash, but we're all taken out of the same pot here, right? We're getting free cash because the town is giving it to us. So to think of it as we're spending our money, not only is it not actually true, but it's not even metaphorically true because we're all in the same ship here, right? Somebody's in the engine room, somebody's on deck, and somebody's in the crow's nest, but it's the same boat. And I think we got to keep that analogy in mind as we make these decisions, because pitting the town versus the school is not a profitable or useful thing to do. So I am fully in support of this. I wish it would have been sequenced a little bit differently, but at the end of the day, we need money and this is free money.
Ms. Brzezowski, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I'll say, I think part of my issue is where it flows downhill to, and that when I'm looking at the capital plan priority list, it wasn't taken from the bottom of the capital plan priority list. It was just the school projects that got taken out, which I understand why, because we're changing our ask allocation, but that seems very tit for tat to me. But I again understand why, but it's a prioritization list. But now Marshall Pond weed treatment is going above the primary school feasibility study, which
So it all gets funded. So the line is $1.225 million. That's what the town manager is recommending. What you see is a prioritization list that is done that way, such that when the town manager is determining how much money is available, she can draw a line in the prioritization list and say, we can fund this or we can't fund that, right? So in reality, it's like, what do they call the last guy in his class at medical school, right? Doctor. It doesn't matter if you're 22 or 1, you get funded if you're in the town manager's plan. That's
Yeah,
the
we just kicked out number 2. We
Yeah.
kicked out the
Well,
starting one.
I
Really
think what
fine.
it comes down to is in the last hour, the town and the school committee is not gonna steal funds from the capital plan from other departments.
No way.
Yeah, it's just, it's hard to see these projects have to wait another year, especially when it's safety issues. But on the other hand, it's really stupid to walk away from this amount of money and free money. So yeah, I'm gonna vote for it. I'm just grumpy about it.
This is also going to enhance the quality of the services that we deliver in that building, as well as expand the window of what we can program and the space that we can program in that building starting next year.
And probably expand the lifespan of the building, because if that building gets too hot, it's
Yeah.
bad for the envelope of the building.
All
So
true.
ultimately, it's better for the building and it's better for the kids in the building. So no, I'm gonna vote for it. I'm just grumpy about it.
I think we're ready for a motion.
I move that we vote to endorse the town manager and the superintendent's plan to modify our capital plan request and extend that request back to the town manager.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, this will be a roll call vote. Mr. Scullambrini,
Yes.
Ms. Brzezowski,
Yes.
Mr. Beardmore,
Yes.
and a yes for myself. Thank you, everyone. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Mr. Beardmore?
I just want to thank the town manager for her willingness to be extremely creative and flexible in her approach and collaborative. I guess collaborative is the word I was looking for. This is very much appreciated. She did not have to do this. She could have just stuck with the plan. So her willingness to work with us on this is greatly appreciated by me.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to respond. Thank you, Mr. Beardmore, but that credit also needs to be shared with our working group that we have started on Fridays. I think that between the superintendent, Dr. Gilson, Ezekiel Ayala, the finance committee chair, and the select board chair, I think, and the school committee chair, of course, I think that if we continue having these conversations routinely, we're going to continue to have really good ideas that we can toss around and hear how terrible they sound to ourselves before we come up with others that are suitable. I recognize that, the 11th hour nature of this is not easy for folks to digest, but certainly appreciate your discussion this evening. And hopefully it's a solution that everybody can at least live with.
Thank you. I would also say, I think the current situation of the collaboration within the town manager, the superintendent, and all these departments has been great. So I think we're moving in a good direction. Any other public comment? Any public comment from the public? You can unmute yourself or raise your virtual hands. Dr. Burnham?
I would just offer that after this meeting concludes, I'll be hopping on the Green Committee meeting to let them know the outcome of this meeting.
Thank you. In addition, we will likely have this as a regular meeting agenda item to confirm the vote again in a non-emergency meeting. But we wanted to get this information out for Green Communities as well as the select board before they meet. Thank you, everyone. I'll look for a motion to adjourn at 7:39 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
All right, as a roll call vote, Mr. Scullambrini,
Yes.
Ms. Brzezowski,
Yes.
Mr. Beardmore,
Yes.
and a yes for myself. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.